Awesome. I'll just do a quick introduction. Thank you guys so much for joining our quarterly office hours. I'm Alicia Anderson, Senior Account Manager and Head of Development with Novo Marketing. We're very excited to be joined by the team at Mason City today. We have Aaron Burnett, the City Administrator, and Pamela Stecker, their Communications Coordinator and Executive Assistant. They're going to be talking through their strategic communication efforts, including resources they utilize, successes they've seen, and some lessons learned. So thank you guys for being here. I'll turn it over to Aaron and Pamela.
Awesome.
All right, let's get this
Let's,
started up here.
here we go. Come on. Here we go.
Yeah, perfect. All right, well, I'll just jump in here. Really appreciate everyone who's participating in this. Obviously, marketing and communication is just an extremely important topic. It's one that I believe a lot in. And we've done a lot of work in a smaller community compared to the Des Moines and Cedar Rapids of the world. We've done a lot in a community of 27,000, and so a lot of that has to do with Pam's hard work. So we'd just love to present some of these to you. And what I would say is, as we go through this, please I guess I don't know if they can interrupt. That's a question for you, Katie. Is there a raise hand feature or something? Because I'd really like to be a good discussion. If something comes up and you got a question, that'd be fantastic. So, my background, Aaron Burnett, City Administrator in Mason City. Been here 8 years, 16 years in local government. Served in Humboldt, town of 5,000, and Keokuk, just under 10,000. So a lot of experience across the state trying to communicate with folks. Pam?
I've been with the city 32 and a half years, and this is my only role in city government. So Mason City has been the only place I've worked in city government. So learned a lot over the years. And on a side note, Aaron is my 13th boss. So when we interviewed him, it was kind of interesting because I said, "Oh, by the way, you're lucky number 13." And he's like, "I don't know how to take that." So, but it's worked out great.
She has to say that. So, cool.
Can everybody see the screen?
All right. Good
Okay,
deal.
perfect.
All right. So just a few things we're going to run through. Our strategic communication efforts, the outreach, resources, successes, lessons learned. There's a lot of different ways that you can try and engage in these activities. These are the ways that we found are pretty effective. As we all know, in local government, it can be really negative out there. We don't work with puppies and feel-good stuff. And when we do work with puppies, sometimes it's things we don't want to talk about. So it's a really tough space sometimes to work in. But it's critically important that we don't ignore this communication side and that we continue to engage. Even sometimes when you're running into the worst 10% of the citizens, the reality is that there's 90% out there that are really getting a lot of positive information and some important communication through the efforts that we take. Anything you want to add on that?
And no, that's the key. And to move on into feedback. So based on that, we get all types of feedback, as I'm sure everybody else does. A lot of negative, because most of the ones that do give feedback are negative, especially on social media. So we try to decipher what's worth responding to or letting go. The cool thing that we have a council that's very engaged in social media. And there's some times where they'll go on and correct people, and before I even realize the post has been up there, they're right up there saying, "No, this," or whatever. Plus, we've had other staff, retired staff that have done that, and citizens. Surprisingly so, citizens will go in there, and then sometimes it kind of goes as a back and forth between them, so we kind of watch the string go. But we try to honor feedback from citizens and go from there. And on the last point, think like a citizen. Not everybody knows how the city works, or what is under public works, or what's under engineering, or what departments. So we try to talk in simple, basic terms, no acronyms, things like that. And we get a lot of phone calls, a lot of inquiries about how do I find this? Whereas us, it seems like it's pretty easy and straightforward, whereas citizens, they don't quite understand. So that's a big part of it.
So this was a big effort. We had been focused on marketing I don't know, for probably about 2 years before we went into a brand change. The brand, as you can see there, was pretty tired. It needed a refresh. If you don't know, Mason City is the birthplace of Meredith Willson, who wrote The Music Man. A lot of music heritage. You can see that's really on the nose in the original logo there. Moving to a more modern logo that actually featured the Frank Lloyd Wright aspects of the fact that Prairie School architecture is a huge part of Mason City's history and brand. So a little bit of a change there. It's never easy to go through one of these processes, and it was one that I frankly wasn't really looking forward to. But it's important to do these things to make sure that whatever you're sending out to the public really is a good representation of your community. Even simple things like a brand. It's probably one of the less important things you'll do sometimes, when you think about all the things that the city does. But we all know that we need residents, we need workforce, we need people to engage, we need visitors. And a lot of that comes from what is the perception of your community. And your communications and marketing are really going to be critical to that. So we leaned into this, went through a good process working with the state of Iowa and Main Street to actually get the new logo. I'm happy to do a much deeper dive on that if anyone needs any help on a brand side. It was incredibly successful, very well received, and actually was branded at the same time with the Chamber and Main Street and Visit Mason City. We all switched to a cohesive brand so that we all were kind of playing from the same playbook there. So really successful effort. If you want to go to the next one there, unless you got anything else. So it's unheard of. The idea is just that as a community that's smaller, we actually offer some incredible opportunities for a community of 27,000. So we leaned into this, putting a tagline out there. As part of the brand change, we really had to do a lot of communications, because whenever you change anything, and that'll be a narrative through all of this, is whenever you change something, you better explain it, because the citizens will start making their own explanations if you're not out there communicating. So rather than waiting and having a feedback, defensive posture on everything, we're really trying to be forward so that we can have ambassadors, we can have those champions of these efforts by giving them the tools through the communications effort. And you'll see those in the next slides, kind of some of the things that we do to try and put the information in the hands of the citizens so that it's not just the Facebook swamp that decides what your city's doing. So, but this has been a really cool effort. Still, we're leaning into it. We haven't really, we've only been with the new brand and the new tagline for about a year now. So,
Almost, yep.
So still some work on that. Eventually, we'll get to all the water towers, but right now we're starting at the places where you can start, like shirts and notepads and things like that. So we're getting it out there, though. Outreach resources. These are, like I had mentioned previously, these are some really important things to really get that information in the same hands of the citizen. Most communities do this. I think it's easy to fall down and not do things like this, but these publications and newsletters are really critical, and you'll see from a few of the things that we include in them. They take time. They don't just immediately put themselves together. Pam can talk a little bit about, like, pulling information for these is not easy, but yeah.
Yeah, so I contact staff and trying to get information as well as the items that I do have in mind for the newsletter. Try to engage staff as to things that they feel are important for their departments and their projects. That's kind of a challenge sometimes, but I just keep on them, and eventually they do give in and get me some good stuff. So it is a group effort on this newsletter. It goes out 3 times a year. We do get a lot of good compliments on it, so yeah, it's a great resource.
It's kind of like, I would say it's kind of like the 101 of city communication is the newsletter, because it's all the things that you're putting together for Facebook, for social media. So all of that information, when you generate that content, you're just putting it in different forms. But the newsletter really has those stories kind of embedded in it. And then you take that and feed it into your other marketing efforts. So all of these kind of play off each other. And obviously generating content's never easy, generating videos, all those things. But once you get these things, it's how many places can you place them, how many different audiences can you hit with the pieces you've put together, because not everyone's reading the newsletter, we know that, but certainly not everybody's on Instagram either. So you've really got to hit people in many different ways with some of the same information, and try and keep it fresh. If it looks stale, then you're probably not going to get engagement no matter who it is. So a glance back. This was, talking about those kind of like things that play into everything. This is a great publication. We've had a lot of really, just an infographic of like, different things that we're doing throughout the year. This helps people understand like, well, what does my city do? And this puts it together kind of in one place. Like, here's the nuts and bolts of it. Everything from streets to public safety to fun stuff like bike parks and groundbreakings and development. There's just a lot here, and we've seen this really get some good traction. And like I said before, these are the types of things that again play into all your other marketing efforts, because each one of these is really a post just put on an infographic. You got anything you want to add?
Yeah, and it quantifies what we actually do. I mean, recreation, over 370,000 people served in 2025. That's phenomenal. That's pretty solid. So the numbers are great, and people really appreciate it, and it puts into perspective what we do. So we kind of like to brag about this because it's a good thing.
It takes a little time to put together, but the other thing I would say is these outreach pieces. One of the things I really like about when we get these together, you can use them across, different platforms, different ways of communication, but they're also, when I go to a meeting, I bring these with me. They're pieces that facilitate my presentations in person. They're pieces that are leave behinds for folks. These are critical, not just by themselves. None of this is standalone. It's all integrated into, are you meeting with service clubs? Are you, how are you making it so that you're pushing this in their hands, either through their phone, through their ears, through their mailbox, any way that we can get to them. So it's kind of an all of the above approach. None of these work in isolation. Local option sales and service tax. This was a communication piece, really based around a campaign. Again, you'll see this has got the old brand, so we don't like that. But this was really successful. We got to, I think, a 89% vote on local option sales tax. Getting 89% of the public to vote for anything, even if you said you were going to give them $100, is hard. So I think it was an incredibly successful campaign. And the key was, again, getting out and informing the citizens ahead of the vote, addressing preconceived notions. That's really critical for cities. Is there's a lot of narrative that happens that we have to play defense against. Taxes are always one of those, and so this was critical that we explain the benefit that the citizens receive based off of the local option sales tax. And so highly successful, and it was an opportunity to again talk about the cool things that happen, whether they care about cats and dogs or they care about the aquatic center. You can see there's just a lot of things that trying to hit those different groups. Grandma isn't going to carry about the same things as somebody who's got really young kids in the rec program. So we really try to think about all those citizens and what they're interested in, and craft pieces that actually speak to that. Some people only want to see their roads paved, so we better start talking about streets, because that's one of the things we always hear about is fix my streets. Well, put that in your communication. It's not the most exciting thing to talk about, but when you say, the overlays that's in that year or whatever, the people actually care about that, and it helps play a little offense on some of those things. Just a few things that we put out there. Again, I think it's important to always, and you'll see a lot of pictures in this, but it's important to show people what you're talking about. Picture is really important. Words get super boring. We've really tried to lean into as many pictures to storytell as possible. and videos. I'll have a video at the end if there's time for it, but we've done a lot of videos too. That's just, you got to get out there and talk to people and explain it. I'll say on these signs, we put these out, again, old brand, so we'll have to replace them, but we put them out where the people were. Understanding if I'm at a pickleball court and I tell you local option sales tax paid for that pickleball court, then you just became a fan of pickleball, of local option sales tax in addition to pickleball. On a trail, out near the pool, all sorts of things that really help communicate. We put them on the public safety vehicles. So communicating to people, there is a correlation between the funding source that you pay for and the benefit you receive. That disconnect exists a lot in city government. So it's important that when we communicate, sometimes we put it right in front of their face while they're out playing pickleball. So it's just kind of, like I said, it's not a social media approach. It's not a newsletter approach. It's every single time you have a chance to touch that person and tell them something that they really don't care to listen about. So this is the super boring stuff of the strategic plan. Nobody really cares about this, but we try and make them care. We tell them this is a lot of words, but the reason for this publication is kind of like I said before. I take it everywhere I go, and I can point to things when I talk to people about, you care about this. By the way, that's a priority. You care about this. That's a project we completed. So it's really, this is more of a tool that is a little more polished than me just writing something down or sending somebody an email. It's the leave behind that I can go use. And it's also a touch point for the council and staff. We look at this document regularly to actually highlight what did we say we were going to do and how are we doing it? And whether are we achieving what we said? And then it's also a point for the council to say, well, we did tell them to do this, so we probably should prioritize that and allocate budget for it. Again, budgets are huge, obviously. This is big communication, especially in the current world of the legislative attacks that cities are under. One of the biggest problems that we experience is this faulty notice that goes out from the state. This year it said we were increasing taxes by 17%. Spoiler alert, we decreased taxes by 2%. So it's just wrong. So we have to go now dissuade the public of what the state is telling them even, which is inaccurate. So that's where this was born out of, is just trying to address those notices that went out and making sure that people were aware of them and how they are not accurate, and encourage people to reach out to us, but then also explain to them the fact that this is where your budget actually goes. You know, the big thing is that pie chart in the corner there. That shows that 50% of what we do is public safety. And then, you know, obviously a lot of other things that people support, but just important, showing them where their property tax dollar goes. This is critical. It's not the most exciting thing, but it's one of those where we have to tell this story, because otherwise those revenue sources are taken away from us. And this is how we've done that, along with a lot of other communication to support this this piece. A lot of posts, space on our website, etc. So, and then we did the same thing with city governance. A lot of people don't understand how city government works, so put together a piece on that. A lot of posts on social media. Oops. And then we're jumping to the exciting part there. But so this is pretty effective in just getting people acquainted with their government, and then using a lot of this again on all of our other platforms. Do you want to talk about the next one?
Sure, I would love to talk about the next one. This is probably my favorite piece of communications with the public. So everybody knows at Christmas time, or anybody has kids or grandkids, Elf on the Shelf is the big thing. Well, we have Buddy the Elf, who's the City of Mason City elf. So he flies in every year to our airport. Last year was the 5th year he showed up. And United has been a great partner in allowing him to be in the cockpit, take the controls of the plane, have a little snack, sit on the plane, and all of that. So He arrives every year, so my first post is always at the airport. It started off pretty basic. I just had an elf go into different departments, and he would explain what the departments do. Um, we have evolved in the last few years into outfits and props and different things like that. So Buddy has a good time in the different departments, and there's citizens that look forward to this every year. It's just crazy.
And if you're curious, Public Works guys do like playing with dolls.
Yes.
They really love Buddy. Some of them will pretend they don't, but you'd be surprised how into it they get.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, look at, he's throwing pots. He's out there on the golf course with a candy cane. These departments really get creative. I mean, this last year, I had somebody at the museum made outfits. They literally made outfits for him. You can see on the truck, he's got jeans and shoes and safety vests. So we keep going. It's like, what are we going to do next year to top this year? But it's really a good way to show citizens what we do in a different aspect. So yeah, he's great. He's even got a little tux there. He went to our volunteer gala in early December. So yep, everybody's got to take the outfits and all the props. So yeah, he's been a blast to work with.
So this is, and you can see that bottom corner there, the partnership with the businesses, really well received. But I think it's also kind of like all of our other communications efforts. It's evolved over time. We get good engagement with this, telling our story of the services that we provide. But we've also figured out ways to kind of have different engagement, tell different stories, provide different information, and so this has all been a learning process. I mean, realistically, there wasn't a lot of communication other than the newsletter prior to like 5 years ago.
Yeah, last 5 years.
Realistically, it was COVID. We had to do a lot of outreach during COVID, and it was one of those where we just realized that we needed to be doing this not just about the pandemic, but all of the things that we do, and so really leaned into that. This is another change. We're going to automated sanitation, and so this is part of that change to automated sanitations. A lot of posts on, you can see we put together all this content. Go back one more.
Oh, sorry.
You can see we put together all this content about collection day. There's just, when you deal with trash, people have a million questions. What does a container look like? Where is it going to be picked up? Is this going to change? All of those things. And so as we switch to this automated sanitation, we really wanted to try and get as many of those answered as quickly as possible in as many different forms, because otherwise we're going to have 11,000 customers call us. That's how many homes we pick up from, and that's just, it's physically impossible to answer that many questions. So we needed to be very proactive on this. And just to allay people's concerns. Anytime there's change, people start to get scared. So when you're rolling out something, just address it ahead of time. Don't play defense. So I'm going to go to the next one. So that was our fun. Hey, by the way, this is an AI logo. We had AI generate this logo for us. It's really fun. It went through a few iterations. We've got an expert on staff. Our rec guy loves doing AI pictures, so he went ahead and generated that. So there are fun things that come from that. This is more along the outreach. Physically touch. Some people are going to have to touch the object to understand it, or it's almost like touch a truck. This is touch a trash can, I guess. That we had the carts out at City Hall. We had them out at the mall. We had the scan for the FAQs. We really tried to get this in as many people's hands as much as possible, because they had to choose a cart. So we were going to have correspondence in some manner with every single one of our citizens. So that's a lot to do. So we tried to really do this, and I think it turned out really well. We got a good response from it. you led this. So
There were times where we would have that was in our vestibule that we would literally have like 8 or 10 people looking at the carts talking, and I would hear them talking, and they were talking amongst themselves, and sometimes they didn't have quite the right information, or they were asking each other questions. So I would go out there, and there was one time I was out there for 45 minutes because as somebody new would walk in, they would ask, so I was just out there giving them the general information, and it really helped a lot to have it there. And people like to, like Aaron said, they like to actually be able to see it, touch it, look inside, and determine, what need would best suit them. So it was a great thing to have it here where people would see the actual cart.
And I think that just highlights like I said, it's not all social media. You'll see this as social media. Social media is incredibly important, but there's the old school ground game of talking to people, whether it's service clubs or just meeting them in the vestibule of City Hall. You've got to meet them where they're at, and that can do a lot because those people can become your champions if you spend a little time with them. So I would say that's my biggest goal through all of this communications. Is really, if I can sway that middle ground group to get a few more people that say, no, you're wrong. Let me tell you what's actually going on. That will do more than me talking to 50 different people because, it's just that exponential increase of accurate information out here. And CartSmart was one of those where it was critical because it would take on a life of its own. And, people like you see the prices on the bottom here. They're like, oh, I got to pay that much extra. It's like, no, that's going to replace your current charge. So there was just a lot going on out there. So it was a lot of engagement.
Plus, we've had staff go to like Lions, Rotary, different clubs and organizations and give presentations as well. So then people would say, oh, and they would tell their family, friends, neighbors. So that was really a great aspect as well. But here's just a few of the social media posts, just the general rollout of what's going on. And it will continue because we are not starting actually until probably July. But like the CartSmart facts, the myth versus fact, did you know? And again, as Aaron had said earlier, I swear on virtually each one of these, there's one that says pave my streets. Because that's what, that seems to be a concern with one individual. But anyway. Yeah. But yeah, no, so it's gone really well. We've got a lot of great engagement, and I think it's working really good. So we'll continue on with the social media on this as well.
So just a few things on the public events. We do try and celebrate wins because you're going to own losses you probably don't deserve, so you better celebrate the wins. And we do those through groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings. We do those in all sorts of exciting ways, especially cute ways like having a little girl ride a bike through a ribbon for our kiddie track at the bike park. That was exciting. Up to having one of our mountain bike trails, we had a jump competition where they went through the ribbon to open up that new mountain bike area. So all sorts of exciting stuff. Put big toys and exciting things around people and get engagement. But we also do a lot with developing relationships. So with the media, with the school district, with clubs, Visit Mason City, all sorts of different people, building those relationships and building those partnerships through these ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings has allowed it to grow and grow and grow to the point that you'll see, it's one of the other ones, the Riverwalk. I think, we had like 200 people there for that one. We get really good turnout to these events. And it just means that the public then understands that these good things are happening within their community, changing their perception, drowning out the naysayers. But also we get media engagement because there's so many people there, they can't ignore it. And so then we get coverage by media outlets. So this is really our mayor. You can see him in the bottom corner there. He former anchorman, so he knew how to work the media. So I learned everything I know from him. So this is just a lot of the cheerleading stuff.
This is my favorite. This is one of my favorites. We had a renovation of our fire department, and we were joking in our planning meeting. I said, how about we do the Jaws of Life to cut the ribbon? And they laughed. And sure enough, They said, let me think about it. Our chief in the back there, he said, let me think about it. They got an old hose, and one of our firefighters cut the hose with a Jaws of Life. We also did a ribbon cutting as well, but that was, I mean, so we're just taking it to the next level with everything. So that was pretty awesome.
Make sure people show up because you're having fun at them. It's not just a lot of, yada, yada, yada type stuff. You're actually like doing some fun stuff. We're leaning into outdoor recreation. So a lot of mountain bike stuff. Bike North Iowa is a lot of new mountain bike trails. This has provided an opportunity for us to talk a lot about our investments from the city side. It also is one of those where it's critical that we continue to communicate because, like I said, there's the Pave My Streets side. So when you make investments in bike parks, people are like, well, you're just wasting tax dollars. Well, we're competing for population. We're competing for workforce. We're competing for businesses. And to win that, we really have to have good amenities to encourage people to call this home. So we're making these investments, but we have to tell that story to the public because otherwise it's viewed as wasting tax dollars. So part of telling that story is really putting out this type of information to the public so that they understand, hey, by the way, your kids, your friends, your neighbors are using these things, talking about the various investments and what's happening from those. So this has been a lot of fun to work on. I don't know, what you got anything to add on that?
I know, it's just, I never realized the mountain biking community that we have here in Mason, as well as in the Midwest and across the states, that people will drive to ride trails, and with our new bike park coming up here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the bike park we just constructed, we're having a big event, again, another gathering, doing a lot on social media. We're having an event called Bike Fest. And that will allow for a lot of the media to take pictures, a lot of people to travel here, just an opportunity for Mason City to tell its story. We've got sponsorships from Red Bull and Trek on this, so it's a really cool event. We've already got people traveling from 2 states away to go to a place that's not even fully finished yet. So I think that the big thing that came out of this is just the benefit that you get from partners, working with Visit Mason City and working with the Chamber and working with Main Street and working with the private business of Wayne's Ski and Cycle. We've really, and like I mentioned, we're getting Red Bull and Trek involved. Getting those partners in gives you more content and tools and reach than if you're just trying to do it yourself. So the best thing we can do is help further the goals of those partners, and then they help us tell our story. Nobody really cares that much about the city. I know you think you're all wonderful. We are all wonderful. We're all above average, whatever. But if you have a Visit or a Main Street or a cool business, when you work with them, you're going to get so much more audience engagement than if a city puts it out on its own. Unless you're like the coolest city on the planet, and I don't know about that. So that could be the case. Maybe we'll get there someday. The Riverwalk. This was another one of those projects we really had to tell a lot of story about. So you can see, I'll run through this pretty quick because I don't want to eat up too much time. I don't know if there's questions. Katie, are there questions that we should be getting to? I can't see any of them if there are.
Yeah, there are. We can tackle them at the end here.
Okay, I'll just go real quick then. Riverwalk, you can see that starting picture. Really wanted it to be spectacular. A lot of user engagement, brought in the public, talked about it a lot, did big events. It's one of those where people are like, well, why are you doing that? That's just a gross creek, whatever. And I was like, that's exactly the point. It's the middle of our downtown, and it's a gross creek in a parking lot. So we made this investment and also made a huge investment in artwork. This is Harmony and Light. World-renowned artists did this piece in downtown Mason City. It lights up at night. It has patterns from Frank Lloyd Wright in it that cast shadows out on the ground. It's a great destination piece for Mason City. But it was a big expenditure. You know, when you start spending money on art, the public starts wondering, well, what are you doing? Well, I'll tell you, everyone knows the High Trestle Trail because it's a beautiful amenity that exists within our state. we have to create places that people call home and have a connection to. And part of that connection is art. And Mason City's always invested in the art. So it was time for us as this generation to make that big investment in the arts. And that's where we have the Riverwalk. But we needed to tell that story. So we put out a lot of pieces. We put together a video, all sorts of different things with our package. And I'll say, you see all these beautiful pictures. That's been a big part too, is having content that's ready to be used. We have a library of all these pictures categorized by every, amenity that we have in the community. And when we need to go tell our story, we've got video and photos that support that story. And so it makes it easy for us to put together stuff like this.
And this.
Communication aids. Let's see here.
Yep, so that was the PowerPoint presentation that Aaron needed for a group organization. And as he's mentioned, we have the photos compiled because no, you're fine. Every group had their own photos, and like fire department, museum, everybody. And I said, we all have a shared drive. Let's get them all together. So it was quite the undertaking. A few people, had a hard time giving up their prize photos, but I said, it's just so we can all share. So yeah, and same with the information documentation, like for grants, awards, things like that. Anything you want to find about certain projects, we have them on our shared drive, categorized. So that was a big undertaking. And these are just a few of the slides that we did have in the presentation that Aaron gave to an organization. And we can change out pictures as things evolve. So it was just kind of a fun thing to put together, and like he said, showcasing what we have in our community. It's unheard of.
Well, and I think the other part was getting all of the departments, kind of like we're talking about. There's always internal struggle. It's getting everybody to be a champion and understand the value of communication too. Whether it's public works about easing their pain and complaints with the public when they're trying to do their job, to recreation, talking about programs, to just highlighting, the investments that have been made. Everybody within the city has to understand communication is their job also. It's not just Pam's job. It's not just my job. We all have to be thinking about those citizens and how we inform them. And it's been a steady growth on that path. Some people are a little more siloed than others, but we're getting there. Successes, a lot more reach, much better storytelling, much better information, better improvements in that side. The partnerships, I think, are huge. We've had a lot of development in the partnership area, and getting our story into other channels so that those are told.
Absolutely.
What else?
I think that's great. That's definitely it.
I think communications is constantly changing. The environment that you're talking to, the audience, what you're talking about, the misconceptions, the wins that you have, all of those things are constantly moving. So whatever you're doing this year probably doesn't work the same next year. So you really have to understand, where do you need to be? And a lot of that is, I think, I get some of the best information on what we need to do from council members and community leaders that just provide feedback of, concerns that they have, or, I didn't even know about that. And I'm like, well, if they don't know about it, then that means nobody knows about it. So that means we need to do a better job. So just always trying to take that feedback.
Realizing we can't please everyone, but we try. We try. There's going to be people, no matter what you do, they're not going to be happy, but we just keep trying, and transparency is the key. Based on, like Aaron said, all of these documents that we send out, we just keep pushing the information out. Give them lots of stuff to think about and to understand. Try and understand how the city works and what we're here for.
Shameless plug. Love the simplicity videos.
Yeah.
Very, again, engaging, funny, insightful. I think that's the mixture, the magic of trying to get city stuff to be viewable and interesting.
They were great. I used them all. They were wonderful. I love these videos, definitely.
And then lastly, and most importantly, you gotta have fun. Everything from YMCA to doing silly stuff downtown to the Wienermobile. If you want people to actually, care about what the city's doing, if you seem too stuffy, you're probably not going to connect with people. So, I had a bunch of people say at the groundbreaking the ribbon cutting for the Riverwalk, well, Aaron, when are you going down this slide? And I said, I went down it, and the mayor went down it right behind me, and he's got a few years on me. So I think that's what makes people smile and makes them actually, want to pay attention to what you have to say. So with that, let's do questions. I can't see any of them, so I guess I'll leave it to you guys to tell me what we got.
Okay. There was a few that were put into the chat here. So I'll start with those. I think this one you kind of touched on, but your newsletter, how do you get that out to people? Is it like print, mail, Facebook? How are you delivering that newsletter?
Yep, that's a really good question. We used to mail them all to them, special postage. Right now, we mail them all in our city utility bills. So with our utility bills, we have like 3 or 4 documents that can go with them every month. So whether we have our recreation program or library programs or whatever, it goes in those because we're sending out bills anyway. So we attach that with there. Also, the people that are online, they get it PDF. And plus, we have all of these documents on our website too.
Very good. And what software do you use to put these together?
Canva's probably my favorite. I know there's a lot of others, but Canva is my favorite.
Good. And then this one, it said, did you say you use that first infographic in presentations for something? If so, how? I'm not for sure which one, Marla, that you were referring
Is it the
to.
at a glance, I think.
Okay.
I believe so. Yeah, you've used that, Aaron.
Yeah, I would say all of those. When I bring literally the back of my car has a stack of all of these documents, and depending on who I'm talking to, whether it's a legislator or a citizen group, or like I did a presentation for the high school. Talk about stressful. Presenting to high school kids is not my favorite, especially my daughter was one of the kids in that class. So I had 200 kids that I had to present to, and that's a tough room. But I had those there because I could talk about like, oh, well, I mentioned the bike park. By the way, here's some information that we put together on that. And so I would say none of these answer all the questions that people come up with, but by having them, that it really scratches where it itches, sort of when you're talking to somebody and they have a specific interest, you can give them that, and it's a good leave behind of all the information you talked about. Because I don't know, how many people in this room are going to remember everything we talked about, but if you're able to actually have that physical component, I think it helps it make it more impactful when you're presenting.
Very good. Okay, the next question is, what would you suggest as a starting point for public engagement for a smaller city that does not have a staff dedicated to communications? And so maybe you guys can answer, maybe De Novo answers, and then I'm going to answer too. So we'll tag team this one.
I'll jump in first because Pam got pushed into this. So she had the misfortune of doing the social media and coordinating the website, and that just kind of grew through the pandemic to where she was really doing a lot of emergency communications and focus in that area. And then, frankly, we leaned all the way into it. She was generous enough to, take this on and take in a new position with focusing on communications. And I will say, my previous 2 communities, I had nobody. As a city administrator, I just did it. And it's very difficult. I feel for everybody who doesn't have somebody to do some of this work, but it's kind of, you have to triage. I would say you ignore it at your own peril. If you're not communicating, all of the other aspects of your job are going to become more difficult. The more that we communicate, the more support there is for council members when they pass a budget, because they understand what those dollars are being invested in. And so while it might not be critical at the moment, it's critical in the long run. So I would say you have to spend time there. Obviously, making sure water pumps and wastewater is cleaned is going to be more critical at the moment, but you ignore it at your own peril. I don't know. What do you?
Yeah, I mean, and you don't have to have a 4-page newsletter. You can just have a 1-page just with general information, every other month, every quarter, or whatever you feel fulfills that, as well as, social media. I look at a lot of other communities' social media. I look at a lot of the other communities and their communications. So, that's kind of a big thing. No sense in reinventing the wheel, because there's a lot of stuff that's already out there that's helpful to, get you through.
I just say make sure you're on as many platforms as you can possibly. You had mentioned Facebook and Instagram. Some people are only on Facebook, and there's no reason not to be on Instagram. If you're on Facebook, it'll move right over into
Yeah,
Instagram.
because if you're under, yep.
So just I would say learn from other communities, steal as much as you can.
Yeah, I guess my take would be the easiest lift is probably starting with your website and social media. I know a newsletter can feel like a big undertaking if maybe you don't have the design background, but you should be able to update your website with new things that are happening, get posts out on Facebook, Instagram. I think that's a great point. You might think, well, we'll just focus on Facebook, but you can easily put the same post on Instagram or even LinkedIn to make sure you're reaching all of those audiences. And you'll want to tailor it a little bit to each platform, but the main message, including a photo, that can all be the same. So my hope would be that, if you're a team of one, maybe design isn't your thing, a newsletter is a little overwhelming. Your website and your social media, that's where I would really focus your efforts. That's where people that want information are going to be going. That's where they're going to find the most about your city on your website.
Good. And I will say, Cole, you asked the question. This is like a perfect segue. The league is actually just about ready to launch a step-by-step marketing guide for cities, especially cities who don't have a communications team. So that I think probably will be ready in the next month for sure. And then we're also going to do a small city workshop on this topic. So it has all kinds of information. It's really like a step by step. You can take pieces of it, use what you want. There's a lot of other city examples in it. So more to come on that. So I feel like we are very close to launching that. So I felt like just wanted to put a little promo in for that. Okay, that was all of the questions that were in the chat, but I think everybody should be able to talk. So if anybody has additional questions or thoughts, please share them. I think you should be able to unmute now.
I had a question on your communications about the updates to your garbage and recycling program. Did you come up with Cart Smart, or was that kind of a name that they had to help you with the initiative?
Yeah, so Aaron indicated that it was AI. So the recreation superintendent and myself were sitting here thinking, because I had a bunch of information out there, and Aaron said, we need a logo or something. I said, you know what, you're right. And Brian's like, well, hey, I can do this. So we kind of brainstormed on different things, and that's how it came up. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's really smart if you have an initiative like that. A logo is a great way to like make it easily identifiable. People will be like, "Oh yes, I've heard of this program," on all your print materials. So I think that was a really smart approach.
Yeah, everyone thinks it's more polished than what it is. Literally, it was we grabbed a AI logo and branded the initiative because the thing is it is a huge change. Some of these things seem very like they're just nuts and bolts of local government, like picking up trash, but when you change the way some of that happens for some citizens, like some of our elderly folks, I mean, this was huge for them, and just the uncertainty and what am I going to pick, and there was just a lot of hand wringing over it. And so I think the more that you make that kind of like a polish, like we understand this is important. We're branding to you on this thing, like that helps kind of allay those concerns. It's like, oh, the city's put this together, and this is what they pay attention to it a little bit more with that. So Yeah, the rec superintendent mainly used his AI goals for making things like me as a hobbit, but you know, I guess in this case it was used for good.
Good. We have another question, and I think I know the answer to this one, but branding related. Do you have specific fonts, colors, branding materials that you strictly use?
Yep, we have the entire packet, and we have several printers in town that do like signage or some of these documents as well. So we had to make sure they all got the specific fonts, the colors, everything, the branding kit, and it was really easy to be able to transfer or to move into that as well. So the colors, everybody knows the color scheme and the fonts, so it was pretty seamless.
Yeah, the big thing was internal communication because sometimes the most difficult people to move are the ones that work for you. And so, well, why do I have to use that color? Well, because I told you you have to use that color. Like they sometimes,
Or
somebody who's
memos.
yeah, or memos. Sometimes people who are really good at doing one thing that benefits the city are not really good at understanding branding. So at a certain point, there's the "I told you so." That's why you're doing it. But getting everybody to understand, like, this is the new brand. This matters. Everything that comes out from the city will reflect this. No, you don't get to have your own brand. You are now part of this. Like, we did allow a few things, like we allowed the fire department, the police department, obviously they have that. A few of our locations, like the arena, are branded separately, but a lot of like transit we're bringing into the brand. They no longer have their own logo. Park and Recreation is using our as branding as under the city rather than their own logo anymore. So we're trying to bring as many of them in as possible because realistically, it's also just a mindset of breaking down those silos. So I think the more that we're able to keep that communication tight, the better it is.
Okay. We struggle with internal staff and engagement and getting employees on board with communications. How do you convince your staff to provide updates, information, photos, etc. for communications? What a great question. Like, yep, I hear you. How the heck do you do
Yeah.
that?
Um, I think I think that there's opportunities for staff to see the value of it, and like CartSmart, Public Works, I think really appreciated Pam's efforts to inform, engage, put information out there, and saw the value of that communications effort because it helped head off a lot of questions that would have just been old school phone calls had we not had this huge effort. So there's times like that where whether it's the fire department on fire safety month, or the police department when there's an issue, or public works when we're changing sanitation, there's a time where you can show them that value and hopefully that gets them more on board. But the reality is you're going to still have times where staff just they draw certain point, you kind of just say, well, if you look at the chain of command, you're going to do what I tell you at this point. And so you don't necessarily get the buy-in that way, but it's I think eventually people come around if you can show them enough wins.
Yeah, and I think getting everybody on staff excited that you're all brand ambassadors, right? Everybody is helping tell the city's story, from, the public works to safety, everywhere in between. And I think getting people excited about that, is not an easy task, but I do think it's possible.
Well, and I think also sometimes it's the dumb stuff. Like we bought pads that have the logo on it.
As
Yes.
and it's unheard of on the
And
bottom.
it's unheard of on the bottom table. So, and we bought shirts as part of our budgeting for the rebranding. We allocated some funding for internal stuff like this. Like, obviously, I can go buy a shirt on my own. I don't need to have the city one. But a lot of we put that money into not just City Hall, but also Public Works, also places that otherwise normally don't get branded clothing, because we wanted it to be their brand too. So it costs money to do that, but it buys a lot of goodwill where people are like, oh yeah, this is the new logo. It's on my new coat that I like.
And the beauty is people got to pick out their own shirt style. I mean, they had a catalog, and like Aaron chose the polo. I have the, everybody got their own style of shirt. So we have a wide range, but it all has the same branding, the logo on it. So
no,
it was amazing.
That sometimes you can buy people off with with a shirt.
The little things in life, right? Good. Any other questions for today?
Is there one that popped up there?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
thought I saw a
Can
field.
you see it? Okay. How much of your time is spent in the fields collecting updates, photos, information for social media and communications?
Not enough. I try to get out as much as I can. Obviously, when we have our events, I'm out there. But I tend to go out when the weather's nice and collect things. But I wouldn't say if there's a percentage of how much time. I try to get out there as much as I can. Also, I've been enlisting staff because, like a lot of the public works individuals, they'll send me pictures of like snowplows or different things that are going on there. So I try to enlist staff because they're there. They see things that happen at that time instead of staging something and setting up. So we've got a good staff in the sense that they are on board of taking pictures, sharing things, and so it's been very helpful. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's there. It always seems like you need one more picture, you need one more thing to help tell the story. But the more you have those partnerships and other people, as I tell people, it's not Pam's job. It's Pam's job to help push this stuff out and make us more successful. It's everyone's job to collect that information and know when we need to push out communication. Pam's not going to know every single street closure and every single thing that needs to be pushed out there. It's incumbent upon each one of those departments to really have a focus of, I'm not just doing the thing. I'm going to tell people what I'm doing so they understand what's going on, and then we do the thing. So that way, we're our job is to serve the public. So if we do it with ignoring the public and not communicating, then we're missing part of our job. And so I think we're getting departments there, but you're right. It's always it's one of those where culture doesn't happen overnight. Communications focus doesn't happen overnight. It's just something you have to steep, and frankly, it tends to be. I think it's less resistance from the younger generation because they're all on their phone anyway. So there's been a little bit of that, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
Good. Do you utilize any photography, video equipment, or do you rely on smartphones?
Smartphones, they can do a lot.
Yes.
I know a couple of our staff, a couple of our departments do have the fancy photo equipment. I know the fire department does, so but I at this point do not. It's something that we may be looking into.
I would say this actually might be a good time if we've got like about 1 minute. Can I? We've got one video that was put together that we had. We've worked with the Iowa Economic Development Authority, and we've worked with Tourism Iowa. We've worked with Wayne Ski and Cycle to put together videos, and they've done a really nice job. And this is just kind of highlighting how important those partnerships are to help make that happen. Do you have it there or not?
Yes, I think so.
So I'll play it real quick. It's only 1 minute, but there we do use professional videography and photos occasionally by bringing people in to produce higher quality videos like this.
Actually, our mayor was in one of those, couple of those scenes. It was pretty exciting.
I was going to say, I thought I saw Aaron out there.
No,
Yeah.
no, you would be wrong. But
Well, very
those
good. Go
that
ahead.
stuff is really great when you can have videos like that one was actually, I take that back, that one was done by Wayne's, not by Tourism Iowa, but there's like 10 videos. We didn't do any of those. They were all ones that we worked with, and I would say go do those things too. Reach out to Main Street, reach out to Tourism Iowa. Our logo was through Main Street. Like there are, cost is always a concern, and I think that there are assets out there through state agencies and through other partners that you'd be surprised. You know, if you're trying to do something, I'd say reach out to the communications group that's with the League of Cities. There's a lot of resources out there to help make those things a little bit more bite-sized for smaller communities. So, sorry, I'm done.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. This was great. It was really fun to see everything you guys have been doing. This video will be recorded. It'll be on our website if anybody missed it or wants to share it with anybody on their team. But thank you so much. We will
Cheers.
talk
Thank
to you guys
you.
later.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.